Have you ever felt like you're caught in a spider's web, slowly but surely being entangled by someone else's agenda without even realizing how you got there? It's a disorienting, often painful experience that leaves you questioning your own perceptions and sanity. You might feel a persistent unease, a nagging doubt that something isn't quite right in a relationship, but you can't put your finger on it. This insidious feeling is often the first whisper that you're in the orbit of a master manipulator. These individuals are chameleons of human interaction, blending seamlessly into various roles: the victim, the benevolent friend, the charismatic leader, all while subtly pulling your strings. They don't operate with overt force. Instead, their power lies in their ability to twist reality, exploit your vulnerabilities, and erode your self-trust. They are masters of psychological games, employing tactics that leave you feeling confused, guilty, or indebted, often without a clear understanding of how these emotions arose. It's like being in a fog where the landscape is perpetually shifting and your internal compass is constantly being recalibrated by an external force. This journey into understanding manipulation isn't just about identifying the signs. It's about reclaiming your inner fortress, a concept deeply cherished by the Stoics, especially Marcus Aurelius. He understood the importance of maintaining one's inner peace and rational judgment amidst external pressures. Our goal here is to equip you with the insights necessary to recognize these manipulative patterns, to see through the smoke and mirrors, and to safeguard your mental and emotional well-being. By understanding their methods, you can build a stronger defense, not just against external manipulators, but also against the self-doubt they sow. This isn't about becoming cynical, but about cultivating discernment and resilience. So if you're ready to sharpen your awareness and fortify your inner world, stay with us. Subscribe so we don't lose each other on this path of Stoic clarity. The first, and perhaps most insidious sign you're dealing with a master manipulator, is their uncanny ability to gaslight you until you question your own reality. This isn't just a simple disagreement or a difference of opinion. Gaslighting is a systematic and deliberate effort to make you doubt your memory, your perceptions, and even your sanity. Imagine a scenario where you recall a specific event or conversation vividly, only for the manipulator to vehemently deny it ever happened, or to twist your recollection into something unrecognizable. They might say, "That never happened, you're imagining things," or "You always blow things out of proportion," or "I never said that, you must be misremembering." Over time, this constant barrage of denial and distortion erodes your confidence in your own mind. You start to second-guess yourself, wondering if you are indeed forgetful, overly sensitive, or even crazy. This is precisely their goal. By making you question your own reality, they gain immense power over you. If you can't trust your own perceptions, who can you trust? Naturally, you might start to rely more heavily on their version of events, seeing them as the stable, rational one, while you become increasingly reliant on their interpretation of the world. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, repeatedly emphasized the importance of maintaining one's rational faculty and clear judgment. He urged us to be vigilant against external forces that seek to disturb our inner peace and distort our understanding of truth. Gaslighting is a direct assault on this inner fortress. It seeks to destabilize your rational mind, making you susceptible to their control. Recognizing this tactic is crucial because it's a direct attack on your intellectual autonomy. It's a violation of your personal sovereignty over your own thoughts and memories. The moment you start feeling confused about what you know to be true, or when you find yourself constantly defending your recollections, it's a huge red flag that you might be experiencing this particularly damaging form of manipulation. The second telltale sign that you're in the presence of a master manipulator is their sophisticated use of victimhood and pity as a weapon. They possess almost theatrical talent for portraying themselves as the wrong party, perpetually suffering at the hands of others or unfortunate circumstances. This isn't genuine vulnerability or a moment of shared struggle. It's a calculated performance designed to elicit sympathy, divert blame, and ultimately control your actions. You'll notice a consistent pattern where no matter the situation, they manage to spin the narrative so that they are the one who is misunderstood, mistreated, or simply enduring unimaginable hardship. If you confront them about their behavior, They don't engage in a constructive discussion. Instead, they immediately retreat into a fortress of self-pity, turning the tables so that you end up feeling guilty for even raising the issue. How could you say that to me when I'm going through so much? They might lament, or, I've always been there for you, and this is how you repay me. The goal is to short-circuit your critical thinking and appeal directly to your empathy. When you feel pity for someone, your guard naturally lowers, and you become more inclined to accommodate their wishes, excuse their behavior, and even take on their burdens. This manipulative tactic creates an emotional bind. You feel compelled to help them, to console them, and to protect them, often at the expense of your own needs and boundaries. Marcus Aurelius taught us about the importance of distinguishing between what is within our control and what is not. While compassion is a virtue, a manipulator's weaponized victimhood seeks to exploit that very virtue, forcing you to take responsibility for things that are entirely outside your sphere of influence, and often things they are directly responsible for themselves. They weaponize their perceived suffering to avoid accountability and to ensure that your focus remains squarely on their perceived pain rather than their actual conduct. It's a subtle yet powerful form of emotional blackmail that keeps you perpetually off balance and constantly feeling a sense of obligation. Or I know, the third unmistakable characteristic of a master manipulator is their profound skill in isolating you from your support system. They understand that a strong network of friends, family, and colleagues provides you with different perspectives, emotional reinforcement, and a crucial buffer against their influence, and therefore one of their primary objectives is to systematically dismantle these connections, leaving you more reliant on them and more vulnerable to their control. This isolation rarely happens overnight or through overt demands. Instead, it's a gradual, insidious process. They might start by subtly criticizing your friends, pointing out their perceived flaws, or suggesting they have ulterior motives. Are you sure Sarah is really a good influence on you? She seems a bit negative. Or they might create scenarios that make it difficult for you to spend time with your loved ones. Perhaps by orchestrating conflicts, making last-minute demands on your time, or expressing intense disapproval if you prioritize others over them. They might even actively spread rumors or gossip about your support system, subtly eroding your trust in those who care about you. The end goal is to make you believe that they are the only one who truly understands you, the only one you can truly rely on. They position themselves as your sole confidant, your protector, and your best or only friend. This creates a vacuum, and as your external connections diminish, their voice becomes louder and more dominant in your life. Marcus Aurelius, a figure of immense power, still surrounded himself with trusted advisors and philosophers, understanding the value of diverse perspectives and counsel. He would have recognized the danger of isolating oneself as it closes off avenues for rational thought and objective feedback. When you notice a pattern of your relationships with others becoming strained, or if you feel a subtle pressure to distance yourself from people who care about you, it's a critical sign that a manipulator is actively working to sever your lifelines and consolidate their power over you, making you increasingly dependent on their distorted reality and skewed guidance. The fourth sign that you're dealing with a master manipulator is their chilling expertise in shifting blame and evading accountability at all costs. For these individuals, responsibility is a hot potato they are always eager to toss to someone else, and that someone else is usually you. They possess an almost magical ability to turn any situation, no matter how clearly their fault, into a scenario where they are either the victim of circumstance, the misunderstood hero, or, most frequently, the innocent party suffering due to your mistakes or shortcomings. If a plan goes awry, it's never their poor judgment. It's because you didn't follow instructions precisely enough, or you misunderstood their brilliant strategy, or you simply weren't supportive enough. If they make a promise they don't keep, it's not a failure on their part. It's because you changed the conditions, or you were too demanding, or you somehow forced their hand. Their language is littered with externalizations. You made me do it. If you hadn't provoked me, it's your fault this happened. This tactic serves multiple purposes. Firstly, it protects their fragile ego from admitting any imperfection or fault. Secondly, and more nefariously, it instills a sense of guilt and self-doubt in you. If you are constantly being blamed, Even for things clearly outside your control, you start to internalize that blame, questioning your own competence and judgment. You might find yourself constantly apologizing, even when you know you've done nothing wrong, just to de-escalate the tension or restore peace. Marcus Aurelius frequently pondered the nature of responsibility and the importance of owning one's actions and character. He championed self-awareness and the understanding that we are responsible for our own choices and reactions, regardless of external circumstances. A manipulator's refusal to accept accountability is a direct antithesis to this Stoic principle. It's a deliberate abdication of moral responsibility designed to keep you off balance and perpetually on the defensive, ensuring that their image remains untarnished in their own eyes and, more importantly, in yours as they continue to project all negative outcomes onto your shoulders. The fifth glaring indicator that you're caught in the web of a master manipulator is their cunning use of feigned ignorance and selective memory. They operate with a convenient amnesia when it suits their agenda, selectively forgetting promises, agreements, or even entire conversations that would hold them accountable or contradict their current narrative. This isn't genuine forgetfulness. It's a deliberate tactic to create confusion, avoid responsibility, and maintain control. You might find yourself saying, "But we discussed this last week," only for them to respond with a blank stare. "Did we? I don't recall that at all." Or, "You must be mistaken. I never agreed to that." They might pretend not to understand simple instructions or explicit boundaries you've set, forcing you to repeatedly explain yourself, which can be incredibly frustrating and emotionally draining. This feigned ignorance often comes with an air of innocence, making you feel like you are the one being unreasonable or overly demanding. The effect is profoundly disorienting. If they can pretend not to remember or pretend not to understand, they can effectively nullify any prior agreements or expectations. This leaves you in a constant state of renegotiation, always having to start from scratch and always feeling like your voice isn't being heard or validated. It also puts the burden of proof squarely on your shoulders, making you feel compelled to provide exhaustive evidence for things that should be readily apparent. Marcus Aurelius consistently advocated for clarity in thought and communication, emphasizing the importance of truth and integrity in all interactions. A manipulator's selective memory and feigned ignorance are direct assaults on this clarity. They sow seeds of doubt, not just about your memory, but about the very fabric of shared reality. This tactic forces you into a defensive posture, constantly having to validate your own experiences. And slowly but surely, it erodes your sense of certainty and self-trust, making you more susceptible to their influence and control. The sixth crucial sign you're dealing with a master manipulator is their masterful deployment of guilt trips and emotional blackmail. These individuals are adept at weaponizing your natural empathy and sense of obligation, twisting them into tools for control. They understand your emotional triggers and will skillfully press those buttons to get you to comply with their wishes, even if it goes against your own judgment or desires. This isn't about healthy communication or expressing genuine needs. It's about manufacturing a sense of debt or responsibility within you that isn't truly deserved. You might hear phrases like, "After everything I've done for you, how could you say no to me?" Or, "If you really cared about me, you would do this." Or, "I'm so disappointed in you, I thought I could count on you." The underlying message is always, "If you don't do what I want, you are a bad person and you will cause me pain." This tactic puts you in an impossible bind. You want to avoid causing them distress, and you certainly don't want to be seen as uncaring or disloyal. So out of a misguided sense of duty or a desperate desire to alleviate your own manufactured guilt, you often give in to their demands. The manipulator doesn't have to overtly threaten you. The threat is implied in the emotional cost of refusing them. They excel at making you feel responsible for their happiness, their feelings, and even their choices, creating an unbearable burden that only compliance can temporarily lift. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, repeatedly stressed the importance of inner freedom and self-possession. He encouraged us to control our reactions and not be swayed by external pressures or emotional appeals that compromise our rational judgment. Guilt trips and emotional blackmail are direct attacks on this inner freedom, seeking to externalize your locus of control and bind you to their will through manufactured obligation. Recognizing these emotional ploys is vital for reclaiming your autonomy in protecting your emotional boundaries from their insidious encroachments. Finally, the seventh and perhaps most subtle sign of a master manipulator is their consistent pattern of playing the long game with calculated generosity. This isn't genuine altruism, it's an investment, a strategic move designed to create a sense of indebtedness that they can cash in on later. They might offer unsolicited help, shower you with gifts, or go out of their way to do favors for you, often at times when you haven't even asked. These acts of generosity can feel incredibly flattering and make them appear exceptionally kind and benevolent. However, unlike true kindness, their generosity comes with unspoken strings attached, forming an invisible ledger in their mind where every favor is meticulously recorded. When the time is right and they need something from you, they will subtly or not so subtly remind you of their past good deeds. Remember when I helped you with that project? Well, now I really need your help with this, they might say. Or, after all I've done for you, I would have thought you'd be more willing to reciprocate. This tactic makes it incredibly difficult to refuse their requests, even if those requests are unreasonable or go against your best interests. You feel a strong moral obligation to return the favor, to repay the debt, even though you never explicitly agreed to such terms. This creates a deeply unbalanced dynamic, where you are constantly trying to balance a scale that is perpetually tipped in their favor. Marcus Aurelius emphasized the importance of giving and receiving without expectation, understanding that true virtue lies in the act itself, not in the anticipation of reward or reciprocation. A manipulator's calculated generosity is a perversion of this principle, turning acts of kindness into transactional tools for control. Recognizing this pattern is crucial for understanding that their generosity is not a gift, but a carefully placed trap designed to ensure your future compliance and to leverage your sense of obligation for their own manipulative ends.